All right, eighth grade. Welcome back here to chapter 3. We are well on our way in chapter 3 here, starting into section 2 now. I thought the intro music might give me a little bit more of a swag factor. Not that I need much help with that, but I figured it couldn't hurt. So section 2 now. This one's not going to be very long. It's only a front half of the page. So follow along, and as long as you're paying attention, this shouldn't be too hard. Um, it's a weird concept because we're not doing a whole lot of arithmetic, but it's easy because we're not doing a whole lot of arithmetic. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to be solving equations for specific variables. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is identify the desired variable. What variable do I want to solve for? The second thing I do is isolate that variable by solving equations. So as long as you know how to solve equations like we've practiced all year, this should not be too difficult. Okay? Like this says here, very little combination will occur, meaning we're going to do very little actually addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, things like that. You're just going to be writing variables next to each other. So let's take a look at our first example. Solve for g. We have 5g plus h equals g. Now, I know some of you are sitting there saying, oh, but Mr. D, we don't have to solve for g because it's already solved for g. But what you're not seeing is g actually occurs twice. So I need to get those together first before I can say that it's solved for g. Okay? So let's go ahead and figure this out. If I need to get g's together, that means I'm going to have to subtract 5g and subtract 5g. That's nothing new. Make that a g. Nothing new. We've done that 100 times. Okay? So I have h equals 1g minus 5g is negative 4g. Now, since again I'm solving for g, I take a look at what I have. Right here I have negative 4 times g. The way that I undo multiplication is with division. So I divide by 4 to cancel out, divide by negative 4. And what I end up with is h over negative 4 equals g. Now the equation is solved for g. Okay? And that is also what I mean by we're not doing any combination. We don't know how to do h divided by negative 4 because we don't know what h is. So we just write h divided by negative 4. So essentially all we're doing is taking one equation and making it look like something else. Okay? You're going to see a lot of this as you get into higher level math where you're taking an equation, you play around with it, move some things around, and it looks completely different 3 or 4 steps later, and it's really, really useful whenever you change things around. Okay? So let's try example 2. We're going to solve this equation for x. Now you can see right here is where our x is. So that's what we need to get by itself. In order to do that, the first thing I'm going to need to do is get rid of this 5 on the denominator. Since it's divided by 5, it's in the denominator. That means I multiply by 5 to cancel it out. Multiply by 5 on the right. Same rules we've always had. That leaves us with 3ax minus n equals negative 20. I can do 4 times 5, so go ahead and do it. Okay? Now I'm still trying to solve for x. Let's re-highlight that there. It's a horrible arrow. Re-highlight x. That's what I'm trying to solve for. Next, just like any two-step equation, like if we had 3x minus 5 equals 20, I would add 5 next. We know that. So over here, back to our blue equation, we know that we're going to be adding n to cancel that out. Okay? That leaves me with 3ax equals negative 20 plus n. Okay. Like I said, no addition. We can't add negative 20 and n, so just write them next to each other. Let's find our x right there. So what's happening between 3a and x? They're all being multiplied, so that means I have to divide by 3a to cancel it out. Divide by 3a. And so I know that x is equal to negative 20 plus n divided by 3a. And that's my final answer. Like I said, confusing? Maybe, because you're used to actually finding little numbers and nice little neat solutions. Okay, we have to get used to seeing big solutions that don't always look pretty, because that's not what we're doing anymore. Now we're just rearranging equations so that they can be more useful to us in a different set. Okay, let's try this last example here. Here we're going to solve for a. Okay, so we notice I have an a there and I have an a there. So just like in example 1, I need to make sure to get the a's on the same side because I need to get them together. Okay, so let's go ahead, and there's my colors. Let's go ahead and subtract the AR minus AR so that I have AT minus AR plus B equals negative C. All right? Then we'll subtract B because remember we're trying to solve for A, so I need to get rid of B. And now I'm left with AT minus AR equals negative C minus B. All right? So from here, let's think about this for a minute. If instead of AT minus AR, I had 3A minus 1A, what would you do? You would do 3 minus 1 times A. 3 minus 1 is 2A. Everybody knows that 3A minus 1A is 2A. That is why, because you subtract the coefficients. So if I take a look at AT minus AR off to this side, I can rewrite it as T times A minus R times A. All right? And so what that means is to do TA minus RA, I would just do T minus R times A, just like I did over here. Subtract the coefficients, multiply times A. Over here, subtract the coefficients, multiply times A. So what this turns into is T minus R. Why? I did that twice. Sorry. T minus R times A equals negative C minus B. Okay. Now I see this difference, this quotient, or this difference here, T minus R times A. How do I get rid of things that are multiplied? I divide them. So I'm going to divide by T minus R. T minus R's cancel out. Divide this side by T minus R. And so that tells me A is equal to negative C minus B over T minus R. Okay? Like I said, I know that that can get confusing, which is why I stressed so much being able to understand those rules of solving equations. Okay? You have to follow the rules of how to solve equations. You're getting the A by itself just like you would if you had a bunch of numbers and just the letter A. All right? So whenever you come into class, we'll get the practice on this, and hopefully you'll be ready for your quiz. I'll see you then. Bye.